Hello gamers, it's Tom Sidener, the Lonely Gamer, and today is Thursday, November the 17th, 2016, and it's time for the news. So, let's go through some things that were released this week that are available for purchase. The first one is Bloodborne the card game. Bloodborne the card game is a really good game. I picked up a copy at Gen Con. I actually did a review on the game, and I will put a link in the show notes to that review, but it's a really good game. My son, who is a huge Bloodborne fan, loves that game. He said it definitely lives up to the Bloodborne legacy of die over and over and over again. In this game you play a hero, but you die a lot. And dying's not that bad, but you try to not die as much as you can, because the person who dies the least usually is the winner. So if that's something that interests you, if you're a Bloodborne fan, then go check that game out. It's a pretty good game. The next game that was released this week was another game that I saw at Gen Con. I didn't get to pick up a copy, but I saw it, and it's The Last Friday. And this is a horror genre game. It's like Friday the 13th, as in you are being chased by a maniac slasher killer and you're trying to be the last one to survive. So if the horror genre games are in your wheelhouse, go check that out. The last thing that released this week that I want to talk about is Dice City released an expansion. If you're a Dice City fan, they released the By Royal Decree expansion, and so that is also available for purchase out there. So if any of those things are something you're interested in, run out and get you a copy, because they are readily available. The next thing I want to talk about is some of the things that have been announced. The first thing I want to talk about is Letters from Whitechapel has announced an expansion. This game has been around for a long time, and it's a really good game. It's a hidden movement game where one person plays Jack the Ripper and the other people play police, and they're trying to surround and catch Jack the Ripper, all the while the person with the hidden movement are killing prostitutes. And so the police are trying to hone in based on where the murders are happening, and the Jack the Ripper character is trying to get back to his secret lair location. That's the base game. They have introduced an expansion for that, and that expansion is going to add miniatures for the police, miniatures for the ladies of the night, we'll say, and it also adds a little difference in gameplay. So if you are a fan of Letters of Whitechapel, definitely check out this expansion. I was actually surprised to see this because I didn't know this was coming, and it just kind of they just kind of announced it, and I thought that Letters of Whitechapel had run its course, but apparently not. And check that out if you're a fan. One other thing that was announced this week, which is really cool, is Dungeons & Dragons was introduced in the Toy Hall of Fame. That, along with the Swing, and I think a couple other things, I can't remember what it all was, but Dungeons & Dragons was a game that I played when I was very young, and I'm really happy to see that that has made it into the Toy Hall of Fame. So congratulations to Dungeons & Dragons for that. Arcane Wonders, the company that brings you Mage Wars, they have introduced a new game. It's a dice rolling game. It's called Spoils of War, and it's a Viking-themed dice rolling game. So if you're a Viking fan or you're a dice rolling fan, then this may be a game that you may want to check out. A couple other things. The pre-orders are now available for Vast Crystal Caverns. That's a really cool game. I talked about it in another news episode, but it's a game where it's an asymmetric game where one person plays goblins, and one person plays a knight, one person plays a dragon, and one person even plays the cavern if you have enough players. And so it's a really cool game. I can't wait till it actually is released, because I want to get a copy of that game. So if you're interested in that, the pre-orders are available for that. Also, the pre-orders are now available for Adrenaline, which was the big game at Spiel this year, and it is a game that kind of resembles a first-person shooter game, where you're going out there and you're blasting other players and trying to knock them off the board, and then they spawn and come back, and it's a real frantic shoot-'em-up game with power-up weapons and stuff like that, and so it's really cool. So that one is also out there for pre-release this week. Okay, so let's move to Kickstarter news. in Kickstarter news, I've got a couple things to talk about. The first game I want to talk about is Shadowscape. Shadowscape is a really cool dungeon crawl game where you lay out tiles and create a grid of a dungeon, and each person starts in the corners and they work their way into the dungeon trying to kill bad guys and gain treasure, and then eventually gaining shards, and the person with the most shards at the end of the game is the winner. You can play this game either cooperative or competitively. If you play it cooperative, then there's a big bad guy who shows up in the middle of the dungeon and you're trying to take him out. If you play competitively, you're trying to get the most shards and be the person who's the most wealthy when the big guy in the middle is taken out. So a really cool game. It really reminds me of one of my favorite games as a child, which was Dungeon. Was originally put out by TSR, and that game was reprinted in the last few years by Wizards of the Coast. But it really reminds me of that game, but with a modular board. And also this game has card play for movement and attack and stuff, no dice, so it's all card based when it comes to your action. So if that sounds interesting to you, go check that out. That is Shadowscape. It is on Kickstarter right now. It is fully funded. It's $34 and $57 depending on the level that you back it at, and it has 22 days to go currently. So Shadowscape. The other one is Tiny Epic Quests. This is a beautiful game. This game is put out by the same people that brought you all the Tiny Epic games, like Tiny Epic Galaxies, Tiny Epic Westerns, Tiny Epic everything. So this is a Tiny Epic Quest. It's a beautiful game. It's got beautiful artwork. The artwork reminds me of Zelda. So if you're a fan of the Zelda style artwork, this is definitely a game for you. It's a very small game, but it's got some really, really unique features. One of the unique features is the meeples in the game. It uses like a standard looking meeple, but the meeples are designed so they can actually hold 2 items. So your meeple can hold a weapon or a shield. That's really cool. It's something I haven't seen before. And as you adventure, you find weapons and shields and items and stuff like that that you can actually put into your meeples. I'll put a picture up here of a meeple so you can get an idea of how that looks. But really cool game, beautiful game. It's got 9 days to go. It is definitely fully funded. It is really close to $500,000 right now, and it's only $24 to kickstart this. And so if that's something that sounds interesting to you, definitely go check out Tiny Epic Quest. Kickstart it if you can, and it looks like a beautiful game. The last thing I want to talk about in Kickstarter news is King's Forge, the Glass expansion. If you kickstarted that, you should have by now, or be getting really soon, your pledge that has shipped. It's really nice. I'm a huge King's Forge fan. I have been a backer since the beginning, and I really like that game. The only sad thing is they forgot one of the stretch goals, so if you have received that or you have backed that, you're not going to get your extra Conjurer dice to add a 5th player to the Conjurer thing. But I have talked to them, I've emailed them and asked them about it, and they have said that it was a mistake. They forgot to put that in the pledges, and they are currently having the dice made, and they are going to send the Conjurer dice out to all the backers as a separate shipping, free to the backers. So if you've got yours and you're wondering where your Conjurer dice is, it's on its way. They are going to ship it. But otherwise, it's a beautiful expansion. It allows you to make glass items, and it has some beautiful glass dice. And if you've got the deluxe version, it's going to add more of everything to your base game as well. More items to make, more interns to help you when you're making stuff, and more stuff to go to the Jubilee. So that has been released and should be out there. Okay, so that's it for the news today. It was a little light on the news today, but still a good news day. I want to let you know that there will be no news next week because next Thursday is Thanksgiving, and I will be feeding my face, and hopefully on that day I will not be the lonely gamer, because hopefully my house will be full of people and we'll be playing lots of board games and eating lots of food. So you guys have a very, very, very happy Thanksgiving. I hope you guys have thousands of things to be thankful for, and hopefully you have a lot of good game playing over the holiday. I'll see you in a couple weeks. And until I see you again, happy gaming.